This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Yes, yes, good
Morning,
morning.
Sujit.
Hello, hi,
Good morning.
good morning. So I hope everyone completed till yesterday's point. I mean, types of flows. Till the types of flows. I hope everyone completed. Any questions in that as of now? No questions?
No funny.
Okay. Yesterday, I think I started with the types of flows. So there is a connect actually in between. So we'll start with that. Let's take there is a flow. Flow contains three parts, right? Let's take this is the flow one. This is the flow one. Now, I will configure a listener where it will listen for the request, converts into a mule event. Now, based on that, my mule event will be processed by processors. So, it will be processed by the process. Finally, the response will be given back to the client. This is what everyone knows, right? Let's take, I'm creating one more flow in a same XML file. Same XML file. So let's take this flow name is flow 2. Here I have a listener 2, listener 1 and a listener 2. And I have separate components in this listener 2 as well. Let's take the flow 1 processors are A, B and C. Flow 2 processors are 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So when I sent a request to flow 1, this flow will get executed, return some value individually. When I send a request to flow 2, that logic will get executed and it will return some value. Correct? Now in the case when client is sending a request to flow 1, client is sending a request to flow 1, uh, can I execute the logic present in flow 2 also or not? Basically, I want to invoke one flow to another flow. Is it possible?
Yes.
Right? So I can invoke one flow to another flow. But point is, in Java, if you're only coming from any object-oriented programming language, you will come to know that I can invoke one method to another method. So similarly, here flow is nothing but a method. What a method functionality? It will take the input, execute the logic, and return some value. Similarly, flow functionality is also what? Take the input, execute some logic, and return some value. Both functionalities are same. Okay, what we can do in a method, we can do the same thing in the flows also. But here I have written this entire, one second. So I am writing these two flows in one XML file. I can write, right? I can create two flows in one XML file, right? And also I can use a connection. Let's take connection one. What are the details present in a connection one? Host, port number, and a base path. Let's take localhost 8081 and a base path is slash x. Okay, I'm using this connection to listener 1. Can I use the same connection to listener 2?
Yes.
Yes. So how these two flows will be identified, identically identified by using a identifier. What is that identifier? Which is nothing but a general path. So the general path should be different. Let's take I am giving a path A. Here I am giving a path B. Okay. Definitely path should be different. Now my client is sending some request like this. Get is the method, HTTP localhost 8081 slash x slash path A. Path A. So which request will be triggered now? Flow 1 or flow 2? Definitely flow 1,
Flow one.
right? And it will listen for the request, converts into event. That event, when it is reaches processor B, I used one component called flow reference. In Mule, there is one component called flow reference. Okay. So actually, the flow reference is like, we will be having a drop down option here. It will list all the flows across the project level. You can select which flow you want to invoke, which flow logic you want to invoke. For example, I invoke a flow 2. So when I invoke a flow 2, execution will start from where? In the flow 2, from the source part or a process part?
Process part, right? No,
What is the starting point of a flow? Source or a
listener,
process?
source.
Listen, source. But when you are getting a request from client, flow 1 is accepting that request already. Flow 1 listener converts into event, and that event is sent to flow reference. Flow reference is sending that event to flow 2. So which will start now? Listener or a processor?
Processor, right?
Process.
Definitely a processor, because
But
already it is converted into event. Event we are getting from a flow 1. Indirectly you
Sachin,
can think, yes.
one question. When you say flow one is invoking flow two,
Hmm.
and is that flow one input parameters is same as flow two input parameters?
That is what we need to think in an event perspective, as I told. What we are getting from the flow 1 to flow 2? Event, right? What are the
Correct.
values present in the attributes payload? Whatever the values after the processor A, that event is sent to flow 2. Okay, otherwise, let's take, there is a flow, okay, and I have for processors, okay. Now, my listener listen for the request, converts into event. That event is sent to all this process, right? So, will it be the same attributes and everything for this particular processor to the next processor? Will it be the same? I mean, the attributes, whatever the input we are getting in the event, will it be the same to the next processor?
It changes.
I mean, in the same, like, same event will be sent to the next processor,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
Same thing here. The same event will be sent to the next processor. You need to think in such a way like it is also the logic, whatever you are invoking, that is the logic part of your flow one itself. Just for reusability purpose, we externalize to some other flow.
So basically, the output of flow one is
Hmm.
the input of flow two.
For example, okay, I want to give more clarity here. For example, understand that is not a flow reference, only processor B.
Okay.
The output of processor B will be input of processor C.
Yes. Yes.
Same, same. Instead of C, now it is 1. Okay.
Okay.
In between, it is getting deviated to the next flow. Once it got executed everything, again the event will come back to the processor. From there, it
Okay.
will go to the processing.
Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you.
just we externalized some logic to the another flow, because I can reuse that logic, particular logic, for any other flow also in the project level. Okay. Reusability logic, reusability purpose. Okay.
So,
So
Sujit, in other terms, can we say that we are making it more modular, like you're breaking flow one into different modules so that it's easy to maintain for the process
module
wise
means
steps?
module means what?
A set of logics that you want to distribute into different
Correct.
flows, actually. You're giving it a name as flow 2, flow 3, but actually you're just distributing based on the process type
Based
from
on the
flow
logic.
one. Okay.
Simple concept, reusability.
Sujit,
Okay.
one question here.
Hmm.
So here now process B will invoke flow 2. So
Correct.
for the event is passed to flow 2, and
Hmm.
after the execution of flow 2, this component 3 will pass the event back to process B, flow 1, right?
Processor B. Correct.
So
Basically, it will
when
come back to the parent flow. Hmm.
parent flow, once it comes back to the parent flow B, we can I do any changes to that event before sending it to C or no?
What I mean, see, just you need to think in such a way like where you want. Okay, first let me ask the question: where you want to do the changes after processor three or in the processor three?
After processor 3, suppose in the flow 2, process 1, 2 and 3 will do some modification to the event, and when the event is sent back to process B, just before sending to C, I want to assume I want to add something, or I want to update something or remove something. So uh, can we do that, or it's
Same concept I will explain again. I sent a request to event to the processor B, and before sending that to processor 1, am I able to do any modifications? Where I can do the modifications if I want to do?
in B?
So same. If I want to do any modifications, I can do only in 3. In between,
3?
no.
No. Okay. Okay.
So that is the reason I'm trying to tell. You need to understand additional flow is, I mean, just we have written that additional flow for reusability purpose. In these processors indirectly, you can say after processor A, 1, 2, and 3 are present. Okay,
Oh,
that we are
oh,
executed with the help of a flow reference.
oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
Clear?
Sujit, one more question. So
Hmm.
here in the configuration you have mentioned, when we mention it as in global, like local host, port, and base path. So here
Hmm.
port you have mentioned 8081, and 8081 port is used by both the listeners, listener 1 and listener 2. That's okay.
Correct.
Both, both the flow can listen to the same port.
Correct. Entire application is deployed on the 8081 port, you can say.
Okay.
Different flows are running on a 8081 port. Exactly which flow
Okay.
you want to invoke, that will be represented by the general path.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Now let's take um okay, few more questions as well. Uh, can I use path A again for a flow to listener?
Yes, because you're routing the call from flow A from flow one, so path is same. Could be
No,
same.
my question is listener one is having a same path, listener two is also having a same path. Is it possible?
No.
No.
Oh, that's a different question.
No, right? No, right? Definitely no. Correct? Okay. Let's assume I'm using one more connection at listener 2. Okay, host is localhost, port is 8082 this time. Okay, for time being, understand that there is no base path. Okay, unless a little confused. So there is no base path. I'm using a port number 8082. Now, in this case, can I use a path A?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yes.
think I told about this example, Hyderabad example, Pakistan, India. Is it done?
No, Sujit.
No, right?
That.
See here. Huh? Pardon?
No, no, no. Please go on.
So, how many Hyderabad cities we have? Just for understanding purpose, to differentiate within the port and power path. Yeah. How many Hyderabad cities we have throughout?
Two.
One.
Two,
Two.
right?
Two.
One
Sorry.
is from India and one is from Pakistan, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Now see, you are staying in a USA. You want to travel to Hyderabad. First, what you'll choose? Hyderabad in India or first Hyderabad in Pakistan? You want to travel to Hyderabad in India. First, you'll choose the country. From there, you will choose the city, correct? While you're purchasing the ticket, what you'll choose? First, you'll choose the country, then city in that country, correct? Now assume port number is a country 8081, 8082. So in this case, path A is Hyderabad. So can I use it or not? Can the same port number can have, I mean, uh, these are two different port numbers. First, when the request comes in the HTTP, which environment, which domain it will check first, then it will check for the port number. In this port number, what and all are flows are available. On 8081 flow 4, 8081 port, how many flows are available?
One.
One, right?
One with the name path A, right? So there is no chance of a conflict of path names. But actually, if you think logically, when you are creating an API, in your API, will you create any endpoint in the same way with the same method and the same resource? No, right?
Yes.
There is
Yes.
no chance. There is no chance at all. For
Correct.
example, if you are getting a get all products is the request from the client. So what is the API call? You will mention get slash products. Okay. So anywhere it will be repeat in your API again, getting all the products. No, right? So you will
No.
not use any for any other functionality, same get slash products. There is no meaning at all. Correct? So ideally, practically in your API, you will not be having the same kind of a endpoints. So just for understanding purpose, I told there is a bad practice also. And also I can say entire, I mean, when you are developing the application, you can choose only one connection across the project level because any which ways every flow will be uniquely identified by the different path. Okay, next. I hope it is clear till now.
Yes.
Let's create one more flow, one more XML file. I can create more than one XML files, right? I want to create one more flow here. Let's take the flow name is flow A. Okay. So here also I have a listener. Let's take listener 3. Can I use the same connection across the project for other flow also, which is in another XML file? Of course, I can use that. As I told, once you create that, it will become as a global element. Okay. Now I will use path 1 for this flow. Here also I have some processors. Okay, let's take this processors are X, Y, and Z. Okay, so if I want to execute the logic present in flow A alone, directly I can send a request to flow A itself by using a path 1 as a input resource. Okay, now can I invoke from flow 2 by using a flow reference? Can I invoke a flow A which is in another XML file? Any guess?
I think you can.
So what I told here, whenever you are using a flow reference, when you use a drop down, it will list all the flows across your project level.
Project.
So that means flow A also part of that, right? So I can invoke flow A and logic will be given back to the parent flow. From there, it will go to the next process. From there, it will go back to the parent flow again. Okay, after that, it will go to the C process. From there, it will go back to the client. This is the structure of your flow reference. How you can use a flow reference. Okay, that means one more question to you. I created one variable. V1 is the variable name I given at a flow 1. Okay, can I able to access this V1 in another XML file at Y processor level by writing an expression where's dot V1? Can I use that in the Y processor which is in another flow?
Yes.
Yes or no?
No, I think.
Others
I think you
also should
can.
others also should participate, guys.
If it's a global variable, something like listener, probably.
So there are no multiple type of variables in Mule 4. There is only one type of variable, and that variable scope is not global, not a flow. We should call that as an event. Okay. If I say that is a global, if you are not using a flow references, even though you need to, if even though you are not using a flow references, you should able to access that across the project level. Then we can call that as a global. Correct? If
Correct.
there is no flow reference here, okay, I created a variable one in a flow one. If we consider that as a global, like a flow reference, how is able to access all the flows, my variable also should able to access across the flows. Correct? But it will not. As I told, Mule follows event-driven approach. In that event, whatever are the variables created, those variables only will be accessible wherever the event is propagated. Okay. For example, there is no flow reference in the flow one. When client is sending a request to the flow one, the request will be converts into event. In that event, I am creating one variable called v1, and then the event is sent to processor b. What and all the able to access there, I can access the attributes, I can access the payload, and I can access the variable. Okay, I can do anything on the incoming event. So finally it will go back to the processor c. From there it will go back to the client. Anywhere is the event, whatever we have in the flow one, is it anywhere related to flow a? In that case,
No,
that container, will it go to that flow a?
no,
No,
no.
right? So event is different. Okay. For example, again, I'm using a flow reference. What happens in this case? The event with the variable will go to the flow to flow to. Here, am I able to access that? I mean, in a flow to, am I able to access the variable which is
Yes.
created in the flow one? Yes, right?
Yes.
Since the event is sent to flow to, right? Again, I'm using a flow reference here. Again, the event will go to flow A. So here I'm able to access it.
You should.
Definitely we should, right? Because event is propagated throughout. Correct? So
So,
that is why in Mule 4 we will call what is the scope of a variable? Event level. Events. We'll call that as a event scope. Okay?
so,
Yeah.
so just
Someone is asking.
one question. So when you say it is propagated as an event, right? So
Hmm.
from B, when it's coming to flow 2, that
Hmm.
event will have attribute, payload, and V1.
Same event, whatever we have at after processor A. What is the structure of an event? Same event will come to first processor in flow 2.
Okay. From flow 2, when it's going to flow A, it will be
Uh,
again the same V1,
Same
the
event in the
flow
sense,
2.
if you do any modifications to the processor one, that will be applied, right? So that event will go to next pro. See, flow reference is invoking other flow means invoking some other. Invoking means next processor is getting executed. Forget about the flows. Immediately
Okay.
after flow A, sorry, in the flow one, after processor A, instead of B processor, you are executing one processor, two processor, three processor like that. Okay, because B processor is a flow reference, indirectly sending the event to the processor one.
Okay. Okay.
Sudhir, I have a question here. So the
Yes.
variable A is defined in flow one, which has
Mm,
been through the flow reference being used in flow two. If the
mm,
value of variable A is changed in flow two, then the
mm,
flow variable A is used in flow three. Flow A,
mm.
I'm to say. What would be the value over there? The value on the from flow one will remain staying there in the flow three, or it's getting changed because it's getting referenced from the flow two.
See,
So the
underline, I think you are missing on the baseline there, base point over there. You need to, whenever you are using a flow references, you need to treat every flow is equal to one flow only.
got it. Okay.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
happens in when you are using one flow? What happens if you are using the same variable again and again? Obviously, it will override the value, right?
So
Yes.
it is
Okay,
same like one flight ticket and different connecting flights.
exactly, exactly. Just for reusable purpose. You can accommodate some other people in the connecting flight from a different location. That's it.
Okay.
Got it? Container. As I told,
Yeah.
it's a container. Yeah, event is like a container. Event is sent from one location to another location through multiple flows. That means multiple destinations. Okay, just for a connectivity purpose. Is it clear to everyone? Still any confusion? Because you are going to do some task now. Is there any confusion here?
No.
Raghu, Santosh,
Sujit, Sujit, one question.
one second. One second. Why only three people are asking the questions all the times? What happened to others? No questions. Either two things should happen. Either you may understand everything perfect, or you may not understand anything. Two things should happen. What happens there? Which bucket you are falling? First bucket or second bucket, guys? Understood everything? Clear? Manju, Nisha, Raghu, Santosh.
No, Sujit, unless I do some practical example, I won't get this.
Concept, but at least you should be something. Either you should have a confusion or you should have something, no? So that I can clarify it.
Yes, that is clear. Flow reference is understood.
Okay. Okay. I think someone was asking question earlier. Sorry. I
Yes,
think Guru.
Sujit. So yeah, this XML1 and XML2, like these are different XMLs, right? So when we, how will we decide like all these flows will go in one XML? Or is it, I think, based on particular
No, no.
process? So
We are not deciding that. I'm telling your mule runtime will treat every. If you write multiple XML files also, it will treat as a one project only.
okay,
So which comes first, which comes second, that is totally depends on to which flow you are sending a request.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So any more questions on this as of now? Okay.
No.
Now tell me, now tell me, I will give few statements. Please widen your ears and listen. Okay. I will tell few statements. Don't get confused. How many types of flows we have seen? So, okay, or else, what is a parent flow? What is a child flow in this case? Flow 1, flow 2, flow A. According to this flow reference and now whatever arrow marks I used, what is parent and what is a child?
Flow 1 is the
So
parent and flow 2 is the child.
Perfect. So I will write here parent flows. What are the flows? Flow 1 is a parent. Okay.
and the flow 2 is parent for flow A.
So then flow 2 becomes a parent flow only. Again, right? I mean, not only, sorry. Flow 2 is also a parent. Okay. Child.
Flow 2 is child for flow 1,
Okay.
and the flow A is child for flow 2.
So based on what we are telling which is a parent and which is a child, on what
Whichever.
parameters,
Where
guys?
we are referring.
So based on the flow reference, correct? If that flow contains a flow reference, I will call that as a parent flow, isn't it? And on what basis we are telling it's a child flow? Since it is invoked by other flows, correct? Yes or no? You need to give the response quickly.
Yes.
Based
Yes.
on the flow reference, we are telling that is a parent flow, and based on what, I mean, which flow is invoking, based on that we will decide that it's a child flow or a parent flow, correct? Basically, flows are divided into two types. Okay, flows are divided into two types: flow and subflow. As per human psychology or terminology, whatever you heard from childhood, any, I mean, immediately the child flow will be considered as a subflow. immediately, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
But actually, in mule flow, the terminals are a little bit different. Flow 2, we should not consider that as a subflow since it is invoked. No. Okay. Flows are divided into two flows, flow and a subflow. Flow structure is source, process, and a error handler. Subflow structure is only process.
Correct.
Till now, have you seen any subflow? No, right? So there is a one more structure called a subflow. As name suggests, definitely that flow should be called by some other flow only, not from outside. I'm using a flow reference, it flow A. Can I invoke this flow? Yes. And that will be given back to the client. Client in the sense parent flow. Okay. So what is added newly to the parent flow? Flow A is added to the parent flow, and subflow is added to the child flow, isn't it? Subflow is added to the child flow. So now clearly tell me on what basis we are deciding is a parent flow and child flow. Total depends on the flow reference. Correct? Now we should not call that as a parent and child. We should call those as main and a private. Okay. So I mean here you will have a lot of confusions. When I say two type of flows, what are the two type of flows, guys?
Flow and subflow.
Flow and subflow, not main and private. Okay. Not main and a private. Two types of flow means flow and a subflow. Okay. Flow can be called as a main flow or a private flow. Totally depends on the logic what you written. And subflow can be written as a main flow or a private flow. Totally depends on the logic. Isn't it? Agree with my statement?
Yes.
Because many people will tell when I say main flow, okay, let's take in this case I am sending a request to flow 1. Okay, I am sending a request to flow 1. Please understand my question carefully. I am sending as a client, I am sending a request to flow 1. Okay, and from there it is invoking other flows as well. So in this case, which is the main flow?
Flow 1.
Over.
Only flow. That's what I said. We should not depend on the immediately when I ask the question like which is a main flow. Main flow means we'll think that if a request is coming from outside, then only we can consider. No, main flow means parent flow. Okay, so now you can tell me, you can reframe the sentence. In this case, which is the main flow?
Flow 1, flow 2, and flow A all are main.
Exactly. All the parent flows should be considered as a main flow, not based on the input listener aspect. Okay, you should not consider that as a criteria to consider as a main flow. Okay, so any simple lines, if you remember these two lines, any flow which is invoking other flow is nothing but a main
Parent
flow.
flow. Main
Main
flow.
flow. Okay, no parent and no child. In your certifications also, they will not ask as a parent flow or child flow. They will be considered as a main flow and a private flow, not parent and child. Okay, you need to understand when they ask about when they told main flow, you should understand, okay, this flow is invoking some other flow. Okay, any flow which is invoked by someone, we'll call that as a private flow. As simple as that. Is it clear?
No, no, no. So it's one question. When you say any flow which is invoked, can you repeat that
Any flow
sentence?
which is invoking other flows, like flow 1 is invoking flow 2. Flow 1 is a main flow in that case, right? Flow 2 is invoking flow A. Flow 2 is a main flow. Okay, that is the statement. When any flow which is invoked by someone, like flow 2 is invoked by flow 1, right? Flow 2 is a private flow.
So in that case, flow 2 is both main as well
Both.
as private.
That's why we have written in the main and the private also.
So then, uh, if flow 1 has flow A has a subflow, right?
Hmm.
So
Correct.
then
Flow A is a parent. Flow A for subflow is a private.
okay, then flow A becomes a parent, subflow becomes a private.
You should not. You should slowly remove that parent. Main flow.
Sorry, flow A becomes main and subflow becomes the private.
Private. Yeah.
So for flow 2, if I'm
Hmm.
coming to flow 2 is my main and
Yes.
flow A is my private.
Private. Yeah.
Irrespective if it's a subflow or a flow, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Got that. Thank you.
Then what
Okay,
is the difference between
Steve, what
uh,
does this private mean over here in this scenario?
private means a
It's
child flow.
because like subflow, I understand it doesn't have any listener from outside world, so it's not
Hmm.
getting exposed outside. So it should be getting called from the inside flow.
Correct.
But so that makes sense that it's a private. It has a
Hmm.
specific purpose. But what
Correct.
about the flow two and flow three, which is getting exposed as well?
Hmm.
But in
That is
what
why.
scenario? Yeah,
That is why all the subflows are by default private flows.
right.
All the by default private flows.
Private
Okay.
flows.
But
Yes.
flow 2, flow A could be a private flow, could be a main flow also.
So
If
in this
you
case, you are referring when I'm saying private, you basically, in other words, you're referring as a child, but not as a private specific because it doesn't. It's going to sit idle in solo because if there's no one is going to consume it from inside the flow, then
hmm.
it's like subflow. Subflow has to be consumed by some other flow. Otherwise, it's like sitting idle. But in
So
flow
then what
two,
is the difference between flow 2 and subflow?
yeah. So flow two over here is getting exposed outside as well, and
Exactly.
it's internal as well. So
In scenario like if you want to restrict the user, if you want to not expose to the outside client, and the client don't want you, I mean you don't want to client want to send a request to the particular flow
that's a
directly,
private.
then you
Yes,
can write a logic that in a subflow that is
subflow. Right.
restricted.
That's
Yeah.
restricted. That's private.
Yeah.
And flow two, if I'm saying it private, if I'm
Hmm.
just using the term private, or I'm actually talking about the private because it's not getting restricted by outside world as well.
No, it is
It's
not like that. It is not like that. It is not like that. Simply, you can treat that any flow which is invoked by someone, we can call that as a private. Simple.
okay.
So,
Yes, okay.
in that
It's a
case,
terminology basically in that case.
terminology
Okay.
differences. In
Yeah.
that case, let's take there is no listener to. Now,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm clear now. Okay.
so we cannot call only subflow as a private flow. In this
Yes.
case, flow 2 is also, in your terminology, we can refer that as a private flow only. Right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
subflow is a real
So,
private plus term, but flow two is actually a terminology wise private if it's getting
exactly.
involved.
So, yeah, how you take, I mean, total difference to person, but actually, when it universally referred, this is the statements you need to remember.
Got
Okay,
it.
whether the
Okay.
flow is invoked by someone or whether it is invoking other flows, total depends. It will be considered the flow one, flow two, flow A, subflow, any flow which can be considered as a main or a private flows. Clear?
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
So again, I'm telling that statement. All the subflows are by default private flows. Agree, guys? All the
So,
subflows
uh,
are, yes,
Correct.
Manju.
I just didn't understand. Can't a subflow ever have a flow reference then?
That's what I will come to that. But that is what the point I'm telling here. All the subflows are by default private flows. When
But
we
if
can
they have,
consider any flow, in why we can when we can consider any flow as a private flow, if it is called by someone, correct?
Yeah.
Definitely that subflow should be called by someone only. That someone in the sense some other flow only internally. Okay, that's why all the subflows are by default private flows. Can be a main flow also.
Yeah.
Can be a main flow. Subflow can be a main flow.
No.
Subflow can be a main flow. I'm not talking about a default. Default is private. Subflow is by default private. Could be a main flow also. Why can't?
If it has a flow reference.
If I use
Like
a
it
flow
has.
reference, invoking a flow B, will it not be a main flow now?
Yes.
Chances are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So subflow is a by default private flow, could be a main flow also some cases, right?
Yeah.
Manju, I hope it is clear now for your question.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So in the same ways, any normal flow by default, it can be a main flow. It could, I mean, it is a main flow by default. Any flow, not I'm not talking about subflow. I'm talking about general flow. Any general
But
flow by default, it's a main flow. Like how
considering it
subflow is a
has,
private flow by default, general flow, is it a main flow?
Yes.
again, the same thing should come, right? It should also have a flow reference then.
Exactly. But by default, I'm talking about by default.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's getting exposed as well if even though it doesn't have a flow reference.
No, by default, it could not be a main flow. No, by default, it could be a main flow or it could be a private flow also. No, not only main flow all the times. If you are not using a flow reference, if it is invoked by someone, it will become a private flow, right? In that case.
Oh, yes, yes.
So don't get confused. It's very simple things. Oh, since you are doing for the first time, since listening for the first time, all the aspects one at a time, maybe sometimes it happens. But overall, the concepts, if you understand here, these without knowing all these concepts, going forward, I don't think so it will work. So that's why you need to know in and out how the request will come, how it works behind the scenes. Because when you go to the any point studio, there you will not see anything visually. Just you need to visualize everything and you need to write a logic. Correct? These arrow marks, this is how it will go. These all the things, internal channel, everything will not be visible. Only the connectors only will be visible. Okay, between that there is an arrow mark. If you are using a flow reference will not show the arrow mark to the flow which you are invoking. Correct? So you need to visualize. Okay, this flow is invoking some other flow. So then it will can we can consider this as a main flow or a private flow. Okay. So understood the statements. All the subflows are by default private flow because definitely that should be invoked by some other flow. Okay, can be a main flow also because if we can use a flow reference that will become a main flow. But at the same time, we should not consider all the flows are by default main flows. Okay, it could be a main flow or it could be a private flow also. Got it? Is it clear? Main flows, types of flows. Now, what I want you to do is some assignment. Okay, by tomorrow. Okay, and tomorrow I'm going to start with the first module called Java module. Before that, I want you to explore how the variable can be accessed if you are using a multiple flows, multiple XML files. Okay, so my assignment is I will tell the hint on based on that you can work on that. You know how to extract query parameters, how to extract URI parameters, and how to set a variable also. Okay, so in order to explore this flow reference much, I'm asking you to create floor 4 XML files in one project. Each XML make sure that it is having one flow, and each flow ensure that you have a one variable. I have given 4 statement assignment earlier. I am Sujit from city, state, country. 4 statements. In each and every variable, create one statement. Okay. And in the last flow, in the last XML file, create one main flow. Then create a payload by extracting all the variables from different XML files. Got it? Got my point? By using a flow reference. You use a flow reference one to one, one XML to another XML. How do you invoke? It's totally up to you. What is the approach of yours? You need to decide. Understood my requirement? Finally, I am Sujit from statement, but I want you to include 4 variables, 4 XML files, 4 different flows, and how you can invoke one flow to another flow by using a flow reference. So based on this concept, Can you please do it?
Yeah.
Don't do
Uh,
anything in the flow reference apart from selecting the flow. Don't touch anything else in that flow reference. Yes.
So
One last.
one variable, one flow, you're saying, right?
One variable, one flow, one XML. So
Okay.
that you will get an exposure to, you can create a multiple flows, you can create a multiple XML files, and you invoke a flow reference by using, I mean, you can invoke any other flow in any other XML files in the project level by using a flow reference. All these things you will get exposed.
so there's one question. When you said 4 XMLs, right? Then,
Mm.
and you have to get that I am Sujit from Hyderabad
Yes, yes,
State,
yes.
Telangana, India, right? So then, uh, I might be wrong. Then each XML should have one flow reference, right?
Correct.
So that they can talk to each other.
Exactly. That is what the approach I want you to, I mean, observe that and get the answer first. Okay.
Yeah. So, Sujit, one last question
And you are
actually.
correct, almost
Honestly,
correct. Just put it on the paper, you will get clarity.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, actually, I have a question. One last question related to this
Please,
main and private one more last time.
please,
So the
please, please.
flow difference basically identifies whether this flow is a main and private. Is this the right statement
Correct,
by
correct.
default?
Not based on the listener. Not based on the listener, only based
Not
on
based
the
on listener,
flow reference.
flow difference. Okay.
Correct.
Sujit, please could you repeat the assignment once more? I didn't get the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now you know, till now, whatever we discussed, like how to extract a query parameter, how to extract a URI parameters, you are aware. How to use a
Yes,
flow reference, I mean, I just today we discussed. Okay, what is
yes.
the scope of a flow reference? How to use that? Okay, it's very simple component actually. Just drag and drop the flow reference, and it is having one drop down. Just select which flow you want to invoke. It will show across the project all the flows. Just you need to select which flow you want to invoke. Okay, right. So putting all these concepts together, I want you to get. I am Sujit from City. The statement what I have given 2 days before. The statement I want to get at the final. So what are my requirements? My requirements are you need to create 4 flows in a 4 XML files. Okay, so each flow contains should contain one variable. Okay, each flow should contain one variable. Finally concatenate all this together and create one payload. So how one flow to another flow it will be, will be talking by using a flow reference. Clear?
Okay, so but I know this is the previous one, but when you use the v1 here, the variable v1, and you said that you can use that throughout the project, right?
No, no, not throughout the project, wherever the event goes.
Wherever the event goes. Okay. So it can change depending on what happens to the in the next flow.
Next even, I mean, next to processor level, what happens to that event totally depends.
Okay. Okay. I'll
Or else,
try
if you
it.
guys are getting confused, create all the flows in one XML file only first, or in one flow, all the variables. Okay, slowly you can move on to the next step like that. Okay,
Okay.
you can do any. I mean, okay, I will not force you to do create multiple files and multiple XML files. Totally depends on your approach. But finally, I want that statement. I am from city Hyderabad and all. But finally, use the flow reference, at least that one. Okay, totally, it's up to you now. Any other questions, guys?
Sujit, I have one question. Can I share my screen? You give me the permissions?
Yes, 1 second. If you guys are don't having any other questions apart from this, you can drop from the session for today. Tomorrow we'll talk about a Java module, first Java module.
Thanks, Sujit. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I hope you are able to see my screen, Sujit.
I can see.
Yes, Sujit, I'm getting this error, Sujit.
Close
MV, when
this.
I try to,
Close this. Close this.
okay.
There are two options if you are getting a unit issue. Maybe in your XML files, there could be in your project there could be an empty component which is without configurations and all. That could be one reason. And otherwise, your why two listener configs? Edit that one. Edit. What is the port number? 8081. What about the previous one? Change. Close this and go to the second first one. First one. Show me the port number. See, both the listeners are on same port number. Delete one and deploy it.
Okay. I need to save it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Is it deployed already? You can go to the console and check.
Deployed.
Go, now it.
The
See, if
project
you are
one.
getting MUnit, such kind of a dialog box, there you need to understand maybe your application is not built successfully. Okay, and in that case, why again close this? Close this. Show me the configurations one more time. All the configurations one more time from the listener, right from the listener. Um, hello world also. Why you want to give hyphen between? Just remove that hyphen no, once. Between hello and world, there is an hyphen. Remove that hyphen. The path. Remove that hyphen.
Hello.
Yes. Remove that hyphen,
This
please.
one.
Hyphen after hello
Okay. Got it.
and world slash should be there. Yeah. Okay. Next variable. Go to the variable once. Let me have a look. S should be in a capital string. You should read the errors. S should be in capital and query params P should be in a capital. I think you typed it. You should not type. No. Q should be in a small. P should be in capital. Camel case. Q
Okay.
should be in a small. Q. Okay. Uname as P. Only one. Just check all the entire expression. Expand that graphical view. Last one. There's a graphical view, right? Arrow marks and all. Just click on that one. Yeah. Hold on. Only one statement you have written, no? That's fine. Okay. Now go to the payload, set payload. Correct. Now save it and deploy it. Stop the server, redeploy. Okay. Go to the logger
How
also
to
once.
stop the server?
Okay. Just go to the logger. Write a payload, no? Empty. It is an empty. Didn't configure anything. Switch to expression mode in the message box. Message.
Okay.
Switch on the FX. Switch to expression mode. Payload. Write a payload. Write three characters PAY and use a control space. Control space bar. Automatically it will give you that. Yeah. Now go to the console. Go to the console once. Console. before the problems.
Mhm.
Uh, Now go ahead and start the project.
Just save it. Okay. MVN clean package hyphen NSU.
Click on OK. Restart the server once. Restart your AnyPoint Studio once.
File.
Because we rectified all the issues there. Still, you will see.
Ashish, one more thing. While you are writing the expressions, I see automatically those like query parameters automatically they are getting displayed, and you are selecting
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Others you can drop from the session. Thank you.
Is it okay